New Zealand, the land of the long white cloud. This is a stunning country with scenery that simply takes your breath away. But beneath this beautiful facade lies a burning passion for sport, and not just any sport. This is a nation that lived to the extreme, and it doesn't come much more extreme than Rally New Zealand. Coming up on this week's show, we meet another man with a love of the extreme. American rally driver Ken Block tells us about his gymkhana stunts that have taken the internet by storm.
I truly am one of the luckiest drivers in the world that I get paid to go out and make these videos.
For most of the drivers and teams, Rally New Zealand is pretty much as far away from home as you can be. We chat to them about how they cope with the massive trip over and the huge time differences.
Yeah, I had a jet lag. I sleep 1 hour longer every day, so it helps. You start with 2 o'clock and then 3 and then 4, and today it was 5, so it's getting better.
We spend some time with local star Hayden Paddon, who tries to explain why New Zealanders are always looking for the next adrenaline-fueled rush and how rallying is a sport that just fits into the country's psyche. Plus, we have all the action from a fast and furious Rally New Zealand. And at the halfway point of the season, Ford are the team who have struggled, a succession of mistakes and mishaps, leaving them behind their rival Citroën in both championships. After 6 of the 13 rounds, Loeb led his teammate Hirvonen by a commanding 30 points. Peter Solberg's first non-score of the season in Greece saw him fall to 4th, with Latvala down in 5th. In the Manufacturers' Championship, Citroën began the rally with a dominant lead over their rivals Ford, the Blue Oval trailing by a daunting 73 points. Rally New Zealand is a unique event with high-speed gravel roads that have big cambers on many of the corners. It means the drivers take a slightly different approach, but it's something they seem to enjoy.
For me, it's one of those great rallies in the championship, one of the greatest. The stage is absolutely wonderful to drive over the campers, and you don't need to worry about the car. Just concentrate for the driving. They are so smooth.
Kind of makes it sometimes like you're on a roller coaster. You're able to lean the car in and actually drive it, as if it's on a banked turn.
If you have too much speed and you go on the wrong side of the camber, then it's very easy to have a spin or to go off, so it makes it a bit special for that.
In some places there's so much camber that you can really use it as advanced, that you can go a lot faster into the corner than your notes are saying. But you go in the bottom of the camper, for example in the left-hander, then there's a right-hander after that, and you have to jump over the camper, even though there's no jump, but because of the camper you're flying in the air into the next corner, so it's really nice.
I have always compared it to, it's like dancing on the road. You come one camper to another and doing like this, like a wave movement, and it feels like you can dance with the car.
Ken Block was the first of the drivers to be caught out in the practice session, proving how easy it is to make a mistake on these fast gravel roads. And this is how the 2012 Brother Rally New Zealand looked. The main service area, once again based in the country's largest city, Auckland, with the 3-day stages spread out to the north and south. But before the drivers could tackle these challenging roads, they first had to determine their road position in the qualifying stage. With it being midwinter in the southern hemisphere, there was a real chance of rain, which, if it arrived, could negate the impact of road sweeping. This meant road position could have a huge impact on the rally. Latvala set the fastest time, earning himself the right to choose first. The Finn selected 13th. Whilst his former teammate Hirvonen went for a completely opposite tactic, as he chose to run first on the road.
The reason is that in the south there is more loose gravel than any other days, and it's actually more than I have ever seen. So even though it's winter time over here and it's a bit damp and so on, I'm still expecting it to clean up.
So this is what road order the drivers went for on day one. Hirvonen was first ahead of Peter Solberg and then Sebastian Loeb. That left Latvala as the only member of the Big Four to run at the back of the field. Time would tell who had made the best decision. But before the rally proper could begin, the drivers took to the streets of Auckland, with Sebastian Loeb taking the mare for a trip in his DS3. It was a dramatic sight as the 300 brake horsepower beast streamed through the Auckland traffic. In typical Kiwi fashion, this was followed by the traditional Maori welcome at the official start ceremony. The opening ceremony also provided the opportunity for the WRC community to pay their respects to the tragic loss of co-driver Gareth Roberts with a minute's silence. Gareth lost his life at a rally in Italy earlier in the month and will be greatly missed by the rallying world.
Thank you very much.
Welcome back to Brother Rally New Zealand, where the Ford team took some time out for a bit of friendly racing. Petter Solberg and Jari-Matti Latvala decided to go head-to-head for one more battle at a pre-event function put on by the Blue Oval.
Drop the beat. Got what it takes. Got what it takes. It's what you came for. It's what you came for. Ain't it? Yeah. It's what you came for. You gon' get it. It's what you came for. Ain't it? It's what you came for. You gon' get it.
Move your body. Move your body. Move your body.
Are you ready? One more. Drop the beat.
After a few thrills and spills, it was Petter who claimed the victory over his teammate.
Drop the beat.
After the fun and games, it was time to get serious as the crews headed out to the New Zealand countryside to tackle the opening day of the rally. There were 8 stages totaling 209 competitive kilometres. This was to be the longest day of the rally, and there were mainly damp conditions for the opening morning. Mikko Hirvonen, the first to tackle the stages. The new road order rules had once again produced different tactics among the top drivers for the opening leg. Mikko had elected to run first on the road, with the opening stage beginning with a short tarmac section. Hirvonen was immediately into a good rhythm on these naturally flowing roads and using soft compound tyres, which was undoubtedly the correct choice on the damp surface. It was a strong start to the rally for Mikko. Petter Solberg, though, had taken a tyre choice gamble again, opting for the hard compound Michelins, which was a brave call by Petter on the damp roads. With 4 long tests to run, he was clearly hopeful the surface would dry out, but on the first stage alone, Solberg had dropped 15 seconds as the Norwegian struggled to find any decent grip. At the end of the stage, it was clear he wasn't a happy man.
Petter looks already calm in there, but there's a huge amount of time loss.
Oh, yeah. Well, I know the look.
Like his teammate Hirvonen, Sebastian Loeb had opted for soft tyres. After back-to-back wins recently, it looked like it was coming together nicely for the 8-time world champion. Loeb couldn't beat his teammate in stage 1, but fastest times in 3 and 4 left him right on Mikko's tail. Jari-Matti Latvala had chosen to run 13th on the road, obviously expecting the road conditions to improve with each passing car, and it was the Finn who took the early lead in stage 1. Running at the back of the field may have worked for Latvala in the opening test, but with the roads getting increasingly muddy and slippery in the following stages, it was the man running first, Hirvonen, who charged into the lead. And he did just enough to keep his teammate Loeb at arm's length. Mikko was on the absolute limit and was 3.9 seconds ahead by the end of the morning loop. With the road surface becoming increasingly muddy, Latvala was also looking a bit ragged. He was 14 seconds slower than Hirvonen in stage 2 and dropped down to 3rd, a position the Finn would hold for the rest of the morning. With the roads remaining damp and slippery, his road order tactics weren't going to plan. Danny Sordo, meanwhile, was back in action with the ProDrive WRC team. The Mini John Cooper Works now being run as a private outfit. It was a frustrating start for the Spaniard, though. Another driver struggling on hard compound Michelins on these damp roads. His progress was delayed further by a gear shift problem. Jari Kettemar was back in a WRC car for the first time since his eye-catching run in Sweden, but it had been a frustrating start for the Finn. 2 early punctures left the Ford privateer well off the pace. It had been an outstanding getaway from Thierry Neuville in his Qatar-backed Citroën DS3, though, running in 4th position early on. The Belgian was being regularly held up by a struggling Paolo Nobre, though. And a spin in stage 3 saw him fall down to 6th. Ken Block was back for his first WRC round since Mexico, but another man who'd opted for hard tyres in these tricky conditions. The American was 4 minutes off the pace in 12th position after 4 stages. This is how things stood after the first morning. Hirvonen led the way 3.9 seconds up on his teammate, with Latvala in 3rd place. Novikov was up to 4th following Neuville's spin. Solberg down in 7th after another costly tyre choice. And at the remote service down in Raglan, Ford and Petter were still ruining that terrible tyre choice that had wrecked their rally already. Over at Citroën, things seemed a lot brighter.
So tell me, Mikko, how has your morning been?
It's been good. I'm quite happy where we are, and you know, I think road position was quite good in the morning. We'll see what it's going to be in the afternoon if the conditions are drying out, but really had a good feeling with the car, so I'm quite happy.
Was it a big mistake to go out last?
We don't know yet. I tell you at the end of the day, was it good or bad?
New Zealand couldn't be further away for most of the teams and the drivers. With massive time differences, jet lag was something everyone had to deal with.
Yeah, I had a jet lag. I sleep 1 hour longer every day, so it helps. You start with 2 o'clock and then 3 and then 4, and today it was 5, so it's getting better.
12 hours, it takes 5 days to be fully sharp, so it takes actually quite a lot.
Sometimes you go in bed at 10 o'clock and at 10:50 you look the watch, so then it's a bit strange.
You end up waking up way too early, and then the worst time is around 5 or 6 in the evening. You just feel really, really tired.
There were many different ways of tackling it amongst the crews.
So we came 3 days before the recce started, so still you in the recce, in the first day of the recce, you were a little bit tired.
When you come here, you go straight to the park, and then the first night have a big party and then sleep over it, that normally helps.
The best thing to do is do something, even if it's no matter how tired you are, because the other thing, if you go to bed 2 o'clock in the afternoon, then you're going to be waking up at 2 o'clock in the morning and you're going to be struggling for like the rest of the week.
But these days there is now a scientific approach to try and minimise the effects.
And we're measuring on the acupuncture points on the different parts of the body. And then we see if there is a good level in the upper body, lower body. And of course also the brains. You have to adapt immediately at the rhythm that you're traveling to. And taking small meals, a lot of fluid, because 60% of our energy, the brains are using 60% of our basic energy.
So at the halfway stage of the opening day, it was all very tight as they moved on to the afternoon loop with half an eye on their beds. And with the roads drying out, it would get increasingly tough to manage the soft compound tyres. Second best to his teammate after the morning loop, the expected charge from Loeb didn't take long to materialise. The Frenchman won stage 5 to close right up on Hirvonen. There was suddenly just 1.5 seconds in it. So the pressure was building on Citroën's flying Finn. Did Mikko have the speed to hold off the world champion? The Finn was really excelling in some of the muddiest, slippery sections in the second pass through the spectacular Thanga coast stage, and it was an effective charge. He pulled another 6 seconds away from Loeb. Sebastian, though, was up for the fight. The Frenchman had opted for a mixture of tyre compounds, and his incredible ability to maintain his Michelins again proved the decisive factor. One last attack through the day's final stage saw Loeb become the third leader on the opening day.
You've done enough. You've taken the lead right at the end of the day.
Yeah, I tried really hard at the end of the day. It was a bit strange to drive with the hard tire in the front and soft in the rear, but finally, okay, in the slow it was understeering, but in the fast it was good.
Jari-Matti Latvala, meanwhile, had faded after a strong start, and in stage 7 his pursuit of the Citroens was over. Off the road and into a ditch. He was fortunate not to roll the Fiesta. Replay suggested the wheels were just bogged down in the cut, and it flipped the car into a spin. While he didn't sustain too much damage, the car was caught on a fence until some nearby spectators came to his aid. Jari's bad luck had returned, though. More than 4 minutes were lost by the end of the stage.
Jari, we heard from one of our camera crews that you've had a bit of an excursion. What exactly happened?
This is unreal. Nothing works this year. I just came on the corner, tight corner. It was okay. There was a bit soft in the inside, so the front right wheel touched, there's something on there. It was like soft, so maybe it was a little bit hole or something. And then suddenly the car spun, and I tried to do the correction, but unfortunately it spun on the side, and there was like a fence. So I went over for the fence and got stuck with the fence. And we had to ask a guy there and cut the wires that we thought we could carry on. So very, very disappointing. I don't know. I don't have the words anymore for this.
Latvala's latest calamity left Petter Solberg as the leading factory Ford. Now on the correct tyres for the conditions, he was at least moving in the right direction. The Norwegian was up to 4th by the end of the day. Evgeny Novikov was just ahead of Solberg after replacing Latvala in the final podium place. Once again, the young Russian's newfound controlled approach was on display on his first attempt at New Zealand's breathtaking stages in a World Rally car. He held 3rd place after stage 8. Thierry Neuville's strong run had continued as he pushed on to recover from his earlier spin. Once again, though, he had caught the ailing Paolo Nobre. Neuville getting a face full of mud for good measure. The Belgian ended day 1 in 6th. Armindo Araujo, meanwhile, had ensured there were 2 minis in the top 8. The Portuguese driver was relishing the challenge of the stunning New Zealand roads, although he was delayed by a spin on stage 7. The leading local driver for much of day 1 was SWRC competitor Hayden Paddon. Running in his Super 2000 Skoda, the Kiwi star was ahead of a number of WRC stars at the halfway stage, but gearbox problems saw him struggle to make it to the end of stage 8.
Yeah, but the hardest part is probably going to be getting back to town. We've got no 2nd gear, no 6th gear, no clutch, and it's getting worse, so we've got to get back here.
This is the way things looked at the end of the opening leg. Loeb the man out front by a slender advantage of 4 seconds over Hirvonen, while Evgeny Novikov had taken over 3rd place after the latest Latvala setback. Solberg was the leading works Ford in 4th. At the end of the opening day, questions were again being asked of Ford's tactical approach.
Who made that decision?
It's like I said, we are a team and we are together about the decision.
Wasn't it a risk to make this decision after the race?
That's how it is.
It's a team decision. We made, we went with one car with hard, one car with soft, and we were concerned that we can see the weather's been this afternoon, and we decided to take the decision, and for sure there's no question it was the wrong decision.
This rally has produced yet more stunning images, and there are plenty more to come. Stay with us for the action from day 2 of Rally New Zealand. Welcome back. The WRC was once again in the stunning surroundings of New Zealand. This is what lay in store on the second day. The drivers would head to the north of the country to the Whangarei and Kaipara districts for a total of 7 stages, taking in 143 competitive kilometres. Again, just a remote service was available to make repairs. All eyes were on the fight at the front between the Citroens. Just 4 seconds between Loeb and Hirvonen, and with the roads drying out, tyre tactics would again come into play. Could Loeb hold on to make it 3 New Zealand victories and 3 back-to-back wins in this year's title race? Hirvonen was quick in the day's opening test, but with Loeb opting for a mixture of hard and soft compound Michelins. Despite the lack of balance with the DS3, the world champion beat his teammate by 2.7 seconds. There were some incredible locations on the second day, with the gravel roads again fast and flowing. Perfect conditions for rallying on Saturday. Hirvonen, though, was in no mood to concede defeat. Although losing out to Seb in stage 10, the Finn was really excelling in a technical muddy section in the 27-kilometre girls' high school stage. Hit back in emphatic style, beating Loeb by almost 7 seconds. He'd slashed the gap to the leader down to 1.7. Petter Solberg, meanwhile, was still fighting back from that costly tyre choice on the first morning. But his use of hard tyres on Friday had left him with a spare set of soft compound Michelins. With nothing to lose, the Norwegian opted to use them on the drying roads of Saturday morning. It was effective on the opening test, with the Ford man immediately taking 3rd place from Evgeny Novikov. The young Russian declared he was unwilling to get in a fight for position with the former world champion. But the M Sport driver did respond immediately to close the gap down to 1/10 of a second. The solid 4th place at stake, though. Evgeny backed off on the final test of the morning loop. He was 14 seconds behind Petter after stage 11. Novikov's teammate Oit Tanak, meanwhile, remained comfortable in 5th place. This was rapidly becoming the Estonian's best performance of the season, and after seeming to do enough to keep Thierry Neuville at bay, Oit began to creep closer to Novikov ahead of him on the leaderboard. Jari-Matti Latvala was once again in a recovery situation after that costly error on Friday afternoon. It took little time for the Finn to rebuild his confidence. He passed Armindo Arrojo for 8th position. But for the time being, he was too far adrift to make up any further ground, so he began to use the stages to tinker with his setup. At the midday break on Saturday, Loeb still led, but only just. The gap between 1st and 2nd was 1.7 seconds. Solberg, meanwhile, had pulled away a little from Novikov. The gap between them was up to 14 seconds. A remote service at Whangarei was next, and again that fight between the Citroens was holding the attention.
So you had different tires, soft and hard tires, two at the front, two at the back. How works that?
You know, when you have a hard tire in the boot, it doesn't help anything. But I had it on the rear just for the first stage. It was okay. Not better, but okay.
Yeah, it's been really fantastic. Really enjoyed it. And I said before that, well, after the recce, that, you know, the high school girl stage, for me it's the best one of the rally, and I really enjoyed it, and it went really well for us as well. So luckily we are now back in the fight.
So soft tires was the right choice this morning?
Not really, but I came away with it with a very good times. So we have to be pleased. So obviously it looks like it was fast, but it was far too dry. But it's hard now for the next loop anyway.
With the European Championship football taking place at the same time as Rally New Zealand, there were a few interested parties as France prepared to take on Spain. Although not everyone was as enthusiastic.
I don't like a lot the football, so it's strange for a Spanish guy. But okay, when Spain, the team he play, it's fun because even if you don't like the football, you want the Spain win, you know. I hope we will win, of course. I'm Spanish and I know I want my team win, no, and also, to be honest, it's really good. Spain have really good level in football, but also we have a lot of sport really good, no, like in tennis with Nadal, in basket with Gasol and the others, MotoGP and motorbikes.
I don't care.
Not at all a football fan.
No.
Vamos España!
Ken Block is an all-American superstar. This is a man addicted to adrenaline. He loves to drive rally cars, but he's not famous for his rally driving. He's famous for this. Time to find out a bit more about the man.
Well, you know, as a kid, I dreamed of being a professional athlete, especially in skateboarding, snowboarding, but I, you know, love to do those things, but I also learned that, you know, I maybe wasn't as talented as some of the other kids that I was skating or snowboarding with. So I moved on to the business side of things because I love those industries so much that I thought, you know, I could somehow figure out how to work in those industries. And Gymkhana thing came along mainly because I was looking for, once again, another way to spend more time in the car, and these Gymkhana events were grassroots type events in Southern California that I could do in a cheaper car than a rally car, and we filmed a bunch of testing and practice. Eventually we put it up on the internet and it just blew up. It went crazy on as a viral video. So, you know, from there, you know, DC was very happy. DC was the one that funded that project, and they said, hey, do more of those too. We've kind of taken some of these ideas, like just doing donuts, and tried to make them more difficult, like, you know, making the donuts around some object that's moving. So that had never been done before, and it was just a random idea that I had, and it actually turned out quite good, you know. I love to experience life, and I guess if the term for that would be adrenaline junkie, yeah, I guess. But I don't only do things only for the adrenaline. There's a creative side to me too that likes to see something and do something and have fun with it. I've had a fairly successful rally career, and I have a great family and 3 lovely kids, and so I'm a very blessed person. I call myself a lucky bastard sometimes, just because I've been able to have such a good and successful life.
It was soon time for the All-American hero and his rally buddies to return to the action in the rolling countryside surrounding Whangarei, but a slightly different route for the afternoon, with Waipu Gorge and Brooks making their only appearance. There was still no sign of team orders from Citroen, with both of their drivers so close together, so Loeb had to keep pushing. was proving quite a challenge to attack on hard compound Michelins on roads that were still damp in places. But again, he had an answer for everything that Hirvonen tried. It was still close, but Seb was quicker in the first 3 stages of the afternoon. Once again in the slippery run through girls' high school, though, Hirvonen had the edge on his teammate. But this time he could only beat him by 1.5 seconds. With kilometres starting to run out, it was looking like it might be too little too late as the threat of team orders loomed ever larger. One driver building on his pace on these spectacular undulating stages was Oyt Tänak. With his M-Sport teammate Novikov just under 12 seconds ahead, the Estonian was on a charge. It was fairly wild stuff at times, but he had closed right up. A high-speed spin on stage 14, though, ruined all his hard work. Tänak's late delay had also provided Thierry Neuville an opportunity to push for a top 5 finish. It had been a steady, controlled drive on the second day for the young Belgian after a blistering start to the rally, but by the end of stage 15, the gap to Tänak was down to 23 seconds. Up ahead in the final podium spot, meanwhile, was Peder Solberg. The Norwegian had lost too much time on day 1 to trouble the leading Citroens, but he was perfectly placed should either of the front 2 slip up. Petter was on the pace all afternoon as he focused on keeping Novikov at arm's length. Ken Block, meanwhile, had been at his spectacular best on the stages with his own all-action style. The American was still on course for a point-scoring finish and had absolutely loved his return to New Zealand. Hayden Paddon had survived his gearbox scare to remain the leading Kiwi. With all of his SWRC rivals hitting problems on the opening leg, the Skoda S2000 driver was leading that category and was in a respectable 12th position overall. There was a fiery exit for another Support Championship entry, though. This, unsurprisingly, marked the end of the rally for PWRC competitor Ramona Carlson. Thankfully, both driver and co-driver escaped unharmed before this inferno consumed their Mitsubishi. This is how the leaderboard looked after Saturday's stages. Loeb's advantage over Hirvonen, 6.4 seconds, with Solberg still a distant third. At the end of the day, though, as expected, the Citroën drivers were asked to hold station for the final day.
I think it would be stupid from the manager to let fight until the end. In our situation now, we will fight it until the end of the second day, and we are still here, so that's quite good. So we need to finish now.
You know, fair play. I had all the day today, time to fight, and Seb was a little bit faster, so you know, it was a fair fight. And you know, then again, in any case tomorrow I would be in a really difficult position because I don't have any soft tires left, and Sebastian has few and Petter has quite many. So in any case, I think the situation is going to be that I just need to make sure that I can keep Petter behind.
Once again, Rally New Zealand produced another day of stunning action. The Kiwis love their extreme sports and they certainly weren't disappointed. The final day follows shortly. New Zealand is a small country based in the South Pacific. This is the place famous for its spectacularly beautiful landscapes and amazing sweeping coastlines. Only about 4 million people live in New Zealand, but they breed a special kind of person here, as Kiwi rally driver Hayden Padden explains.
We're Kiwis and we're a little bit different to a lot of other cultures. We have our own way of doing things, and the Kiwi attitude is that anything can be done, and which is similar to my goals and dreams in the rally.
Mikko Hirvonen has his own take on the locals.
I'm supposed, because for us they are upside down all the time, so they get a bit crazy.
Whatever your view, this country is a playground for thrill seekers. Rally drivers are well known as adrenaline junkies. Hirvonen and Jari-Matti Latvala happily throwing themselves off the Sky Tower.
It was a good experience, I enjoyed it, but the moment when you are on the panel and then you see 180 meters down and you see on like a little spot there where you have to come, and then when you drop there yourself, that is just a bit like a scary moment. But after that, I was enjoying it.
Oh, it's really amazing. You know, even though I don't really like high places, but just to take the step and come down, you know, it's amazing.
While Petter Solberg, Oit Tanak and Armindo Arrojo enjoyed the thrills of blasting around Auckland Harbour in one of New Zealand's infamous jet boats. And Mini Team Portugal had even created their own version of extreme fishing. But for Padden, this is just home.
This is where I obviously grew up and where I learnt how to drive cars, and you know, they are the best roads in the world. I'm probably a little bit biased, but they are very smooth, basically like a motorway on gravel, and a lot of camber. And they are just a pure driver's rally, and I just love every time I get the chance to drive on these roads.
This is Padden's first season competing in the SWRC, the class seen as the stepping stone to the WRC. For Hayden, rallying is a huge part of his life.
Yeah, it's always something I've loved doing, and it's something I always want to keep on doing for the rest of my life as well. And you know, I've always had the goals of being world champion. It's probably not until the last 2 or 3 years that those goals have seemed more realistic, but still I just love driving cars and going sideways.
The third day of action featured stages much closer to Auckland to the north on roads not used since the 1990s. It included 2 passes over a short asphalt test at the city's War Memorial Museum, as well as the end of rally power stage, where bonus points were on offer for the top 3 finishers. So just 60 kilometres remained on day 3, but with the rain returning, conditions were treacherous on the final morning. As predicted, team orders had finally been called by the Citroën factory team, so once again, Sebastian Loeb started the day in pole position for another win. The plan was for Sebastian to lead Mikko Hirvonen home for the French manufacturer's 4th 1-2 finish of the year, and with nearly a minute and a half back to Petter Solberg, the world champion could afford to cruise. Loeb was in no rush on the final morning, although a lack of soft tyres was making life difficult in the wet.
Sebastian, just looking around the car at the end of the stage, you've gone with the crossover, soft to hard.
Yeah, it was not bad. For sure, it's not the best choice. It's really wet, but it was okay. The balance of the car was okay.
Mikko Hirvonen had become well accustomed to the role of number 2 driver on his first season with Citroën, and his sole job was to bring home another dominant 1-2 finish. He would have to keep one eye on the times of Petter Solberg, though, with the Norwegian still having a full set of soft compound Michelins available. From our helicopter, you can see how treacherous the conditions were. It was very easy to make a mistake, especially running on hard tyres. The leading factory Ford was still Petter Solberg. The former world champion had indeed saved his soft tyres for today's impending rain, but after another frustrating weekend, the Ford team had also called time on Petter's push. Solberg too opting for caution on the slippery stages as he looked to secure a safe 3rd place for an otherwise disappointing weekend for the Blue Oval.
Opens, extra long, over 80, keep right over crest 32, left minus times 1.
Thierry Neuville, meanwhile, had once again proved his status as a real star in the making. The Belgian had taken his first Rally New Zealand completely in his stride, and in the process of building a late charge on Oit Tanak's 5th place, he also scored his first ever WRC stage wins with back-to-back fastest times. In contrast, it had been a miserable event again for Jari-Matti Latvala. Even at the midway point of the season, the Finns championship hopes already looked hopeless as he launched his Fiesta into the day's opening stages, lying in 8th. Adding to his woes, his Ford Fiesta was shod with 4 hard compound tyres, having used all his softs already over the course of the weekend. In these tricky conditions, it was not an easy proposition. Danny Sordo, though, had saved a set of soft tyres, so the conditions would be easier to handle for the Spaniard. And the Mini driver took full advantage, claiming the 3rd fastest time in stage 17. Ken Block, meanwhile, had relished his return to the stunning roads of New Zealand. The American had stated these were quite simply the best roads in the world, and the Monster World Rally Team driver was still on course for a top 10 finish. After the first 2 stages of the final day, Loeb remained on top, 15.8 seconds ahead of teammate Hirvonen, but the fight was on for 5th, 6th and 7th. Thierry Neuville was on a charge, and Oit Tanak was under pressure. There was a special treat in store for Aucklanders on the final day of the rally as the World Rally cars headed for the Auckland Domain.
It's speed and it's excitement and it's just great fun.
The cars passed through the park that houses the city's War Memorial Museum.
We went up to Whangarei yesterday and you can meet the drivers. No, you can't do that in any other sport.
Fans had turned out in their thousands to see their rally heroes in action. With the blast through the city centre out of the way, it was back out to Rally New Zealand's traditional home in the surrounding countryside for the final 2 stages before the end of Rally Power Stage. Oit Tanak had a fight on his hands to hold on to 5th. There were just over 16 seconds between himself and Thierry Neuville. With the Belgian piling on the pressure in the treacherous conditions. Eventually, it gave. That was the end of Tanak's run in 5th and the end of his rally too.
We are off the road. We rolled the car. Very sorry. Look, flat.
Taking another look, you can see Tanak was just on the ragged edge. A heavy impact, but thankfully, both co-driver and driver unharmed. It had been one of Tanak's better performances in a WRC car, but the youngster would have to put that down to experience. So Neuville's finest display to date in a WRC car had yielded results in dramatic fashion. With Tanak out of the running, suddenly the Belgian was on course to equal his best result in 5th. He underlined his fine performance with his 3rd ever stage win. Citroën's senior statesman Loeb, meanwhile, continued his serene progress, defying the challenging conditions. With Hirvonen continuing to back off at his team's request, the 8-time world champion was looking unstoppable as he charged on towards win number 72. Stages 20 and 21 were safely negotiated, and Loeb was looking typically calm inside the DS3. The final real stage was completed, just the short power stage to come for the world champion. So with most positions in the overall standings looking secure, the power stage provided some late excitement with bonus points on offer for the top 3 finishers. With the rain still falling, it would not be an easy task. Jari-Matti Latvala has endured a succession of mishaps in 2012. The Finnish star remains one of the quickest drivers on the planet when in full flight, but it just hasn't happened for the Ford man. It had been another character-building weekend for Jari, and with nothing to lose, it was no surprise Latvala was in full attack mode in the 7-kilometre Burnside power stage. It was a terrific finale to the rally for Jari-Matti, and he was the quickest man through so far.
I haven't got the confidence, especially Friday. I was struggling, Saturday also. I started to pick up the things for Saturday evening, and the Sunday has been now all right. But everything could have been. I would have been able to be podium without my mistake on Friday. But that's always if. At least we are now on the finish. We get some points. This year everything has been so difficult anyway that at least now we can get with the result. We can keep going to Finland and focus to fight over them.
Latvala had the time to beat them, but he wasn't the only driver with a point to prove. Jari's teammate Peter Solberg was also looking for some consolation from a frustrating weekend. With a podium position at stake, though, it wasn't quite an all-out charge from the Norwegian. Petter was 1.5 seconds slower than Latvala in the power stage, but it was podium number 4 for the season. While the Ford team's frustration had continued, the Loeb-Hirvonen partnership at Citroën was going from strength to strength. For the third successive rally, they were on course for a dominant 1-2 finish, with Mikko again playing the role of team player with a minimum of fuss. It was a risk-free run from the Finn in the power stage as he concentrated on bringing his DS3 safely home. The final car to head towards the last flying finish was Citroën's record-breaking world champion, Sébastien Loeb. Having survived a 2-day battle with his teammate, this would be another thoroughly deserved victory. The fast-flowing roads of New Zealand have always favoured the most talented drivers of the WRC, so it was no surprise that Seb was on course for win number 3 in the South Pacific. There was no foolhardy onslaught for a power stage win to add to the overall victory. But with the third fastest time in stage 22, Loeb still secured a solitary bonus point, but there's confirmation it was Jari-Matti Latvala who claimed the power stage victory. It was win number 72 though for the Frenchman, a breathtaking display of skill and nerve once again from the championship leader. Credit to, as always, to co-driver Daniel Elena.
Great victory. It was a long weekend with some very difficult conditions. Big fight with Mikko all the weekend, so it was not easy. We are here now at the end of the rally. That was very important too. A few mistakes in the power stage, pushing a bit too hard, and went wide 2 or 3 times. So we took 1 point, but the most important is to be here.
You're saying about the power stage, you want everything, don't you? You want the rally win and the power stage. You're not giving any points away this year.
For sure, as long you try. No, it's important. I know I lost. I didn't lose some championship, but I lost a lot of points in some mistakes at the end of the season. You never know how things are going on. So everything I can take now, I take it.
Hayden Paddon had continued to fly the flag for New Zealand on the final day. The Skoda driver claimed the win in the SWRC category, and while he slipped behind Jari Ketamar on the leaderboard, with Tanak crashing out, the Kiwi remained in 12th position. Loeb's final winning margin was 29.6 seconds over his teammate Hirvonen, and Solberg claimed his 4th podium finish of the season with a fine 4th place for Evgeny Novikov and 5th for Neuville on his New Zealand debut. The biggest celebrations again, though, would be over at the factory Citroën service.
Again, we do first and second here, so the car shows that the car is really reliable. Oh, j'arrive jamais ça. It's really strong, and yeah, so the team has done a great job. Mikko and me too, so it's looking good for the championship.
I settled pretty well in the new team. You know, we've been really consistent, and in some of the rallies we managed to challenge Sebastian as well. So you know, it's been pretty good, but for sure, you know, it would be time to lift the pace a little bit and win rallies. But then again, we did a great job again.
So, 5th victory in the season so far for Seb. What does that mean for him and the team especially?
We are for sure very happy, and it's, I will say, very good for the second part of the season. We are leading both championship, and both drivers are 1 and 2nd in the driver championship. It's very important just before 4 weeks result rally.
We made a mistake, but okay, it was quite expensive. But Peters had a good fight back, finished 3rd, and we were in the fight for the victory for the rally. Won the power stage quicks in the qualifying, but obviously the rally is proving quite difficult for us at the moment.
It was 3 wins from 3 rallies for Loeb, and his championship lead was extended further. The gap to 2nd place Hirvonen, 38 points, with Solberg moving back ahead of his compatriot Osberg, who didn't compete in New Zealand. It was also a 3rd 1-2 finish in a row for Citroën, so they continue to pull away from Ford in the manufacturer's standings. Yet another champagne moment for Loeb and Elena then. After a summer break, the championship resumes on the breathtaking jumps of Finland. Ford and Latvala in particular will hope to fight back there. But for now, we'll leave you with some of the best memories from this spectacular event.